Welcome to the HUMAC NORM service video series. This video demonstrates how to assemble a HUMAC NORM. To install a HUMAC NORM, you will need the following tools: a furniture dolly, 2 are preferred, tin snips, Phillips head screwdriver, 9/16 box wrench, 3/4 inch box wrench, socket wrench with 3/4 inch socket, utility knife. Under not needed but nice to have is a powered screwdriver and powered socket driver. Place the electronics frame in position on a furniture dolly. We recommend the HUMAC NORM is set up perpendicular from the wall, 1 foot from the wall, similar to a treadmill. To remove the electronics frame from the furniture dolly, grab the monitor arm post with one hand and the bottom of the dolly with the other hand. Using your legs, carefully lift the dolly until the dynamometer end of the electronics frame reaches the floor and the dolly falls free. Remove the dolly. Slowly lower the electronics frame onto the floor. Install the leveling guide that was removed from the carriage base when the chair was removed from the pallet. Make sure the leveling guides are set to the same height. Position the carriage base chair behind the electronics frame. You want the carriage base to be close enough to the electronics frame so when it is lowered, it rests on the lip at the base of the electronics frame. Now you need to remove the chair from the furniture dolly. Set the Y translation to 0, the chair all the way back. To remove the carriage base from the dolly, you will need to manage the weight of the chair. First, the back edge of the chair carriage assembly is aligned with the back edge of the dolly. Then you will stand on the front of the carriage base to counterbalance the chair as the chair is moved to the back of the carriage base. You will replace your feet with your hands to keep the front of the carriage base from raising up as you step off the carriage base. Finally, you will allow the carriage base to lift up until it is resting on the levelers and the dolly falls free. Step on the yellow carriage base pedal to align the back edge of the chair carriage assembly with the back edge of the dolly. Be sure the carriage base is aligned with the electronics frame and over the lip of the electronics frame. Step on the front of the carriage base, press the yellow carriage base pedal down and carefully slide the chair to the back of the carriage base, keeping in mind your body weight is now counterbalancing the weight of the chair on the dolly. Release the foot pedal, but stay standing on the carriage base. At this point, most of the carriage base weight is offset and it wants to tip off the furniture dolly. You will need to place your hand on the front of the carriage base near your foot before removing your foot to hold the carriage base in place. Replace your foot with your hands to control the rise of the carriage base. Facing the dynamometer, straddle the carriage base and lift on the carriage base until the dolly falls to the ground. Remove the dolly from under the carriage base. Slowly lower the carriage base to the electronics frame. If it does not rest on the electronics frame lip, raise the carriage base up and walk it side to side towards the electronics frame. Lower the carriage base onto the electronics frame lip. Adjust the alignment of the electronics frame and the carriage base so the two are in line and the edges of each are matched. Place the hardware box on the chair. Use a Phillips head screwdriver or an electric screwdriver to remove the 10 Phillips head screws holding the black plastic electronics frame cowling in place. Open the yellow dynamometer pedestal clamp to raise the dynamometer to access the two screws nearest the dynamometer. Remove the dynamometer pedestal cover. You will need to raise each of the yellow dynamometer pedestal clamps a bit to remove the cover. Position the dynamometer rotation and height so the cable leading from the dynamometer has slack. Remove the cowling from the dynamometer cable side. At the base of the dynamometer pedestal is a cover plate held in place by 3 Phillips head screws. Remove the 3 Phillips head screws holding the cover plate in place. Note, these 3 screws are slightly smaller than the screws that hold the cowling in place. Inside the hardware box is a plastic bag containing the comfort switch and 4 hex head bolts with split washers. Install the comfort switch in the HUMAC interface jack labeled Comfort Switch. Dock the comfort switch in the black metal holder above the jack. Below the comfort switch is a USB port. Install the 1-foot USB cable which is shipped in the hardware box. The next step is to secure the carriage base to the electronics frame. There are 4 bolts, each should have a split washer. They install through the electronics frame and screw into the carriage base. If the holes are not lined up horizontally, insert a screwdriver and move it side to set horizontal alignment. Install the 4 bolts to secure the electronics frame to the carriage base. Screw in finger tight. If the holes do not line up vertically, open the dynamometer pedestal clamp, raise the dynamometer up, and then close the dynamometer clamp to secure it. Push on the dynamometer to vertically align the holes and insert the bolts. Finally, if the leveling guides are not level on the carriage base or the electronics frame, you may be only able to get one bolt in. If this is the case, determine which side is not level and adjust the appropriate leveling guide so the carriage base and electronic frames are level and all 4 bolts can be easily installed. Now the stabilizer bar needs to be installed on the front end of the electronics frame. The stabilizer bar ships in the attachment box. Shrink wrapped to the stabilizer bar is a bag containing 4 hex head bolts, 4 screw cap washers, and 4 black plastic screw caps. This is not shown in the video. Remove the bag to access the parts. The stabilizer bar is installed as shown with the dock plates facing the electronics frame. Include a screw cap washer with each bolt. Once all 4 bolts are installed and tight, go back and install a black plastic screw cap on each bolt. Install the stabilizer bar with the dock plate facing the electronics frame. Install the 4 bolts, each with a screw cap washer, finger tight. Once all 4 bolts are in place, tighten each bolt and add the screw cap. Once the stabilizer bar is installed, go back to the electronics frame carriage base bolts and use a socket wrench with a 3/4 inch socket to tighten them in a star pattern. Sufficiently tight, there should not be a gap between the electronics frame and the carriage base. Install the dynamometer base cover plate using the 3 shorter Phillips head screws. Now is a good time to confirm the 7 J-clips used to hold the cowling to the electronics frame are in place and aligned with their respective hole. Not shown are the 2 J-clips installed on the back side of the electronics frame. The next step is to install the computer system. Install the mouse pad from the hardware box. Inside the hardware box is a Velcro strip. Cut 2 small pieces approximately 1/2 inch by 1/2 inch. Apply 1 piece to each of the bottom corners of the keyboard. Remove the plastic cover from the Velcro and attach the keyboard to the lower left corner of the monitor tray. Cut the remaining Velcro strip in half. It will be used to secure the monitor to the monitor tray. Assemble the monitor. Apply the 2 Velcro strips to the outside edges of the monitor stand. Remove the plastic covering from the Velcro so it is ready to apply. Center the monitor stand along the back edge, shortest edge of the monitor tray. Push down to secure the Velcro in place. Feed the keyboard and mouse cables through the monitor stand. Insert the keyboard, mouse, monitor power cord, and display cables through the black split corrugated tube. The green ground wire should already be in it. Attach the sound bar to the monitor. Feed the soundbar cable through the monitor stand and into the black split corrugated tube. Install the CPU in the electronics frame. Attach the USB cable from the HUMAC interface into the front USB port on the CPU. The servo amp assembly has 4 110 outlets. Plug the CPU and monitor power cables into the servo amp assembly outlets. Plug the keyboard, mouse, and soundbar USB cables leading from the black corrugated tube into the USB ports on the back of the CPU. Plug the display cable into the CPU. Plug the printer power cord into the servo amp assembly 110 outlet. The printer will sit atop the electronics frame. Leave about 1.5 feet of power cord so it will reach the printer. The hardware box will include a 6-foot USB cable for the printer. Plug this USB cable into the back of the CPU. Loop the slack in the USB cable, leaving about 1.5 feet to reach the printer. Secure the black corrugated tube to the top universal mounting strap on the monitor arm. Leave room so the monitor tray can freely rotate without pulling on the monitor, keyboard, or mouse, and the mouse can be operated freely. Insert the printer power cord and USB cable into the split corrugated tube so they exit the corrugated tube just above the lower universal mounting strap. Leave about 6 inches of cable leading from the corrugated tube to reach the printer once installed. Attach the split corrugated tube to the lower universal mounting strap. Be sure the two servo amp assembly power cables exit the front of the electronics frame. Install the electronics frame cowling with the HUMAC NORM label first. Be sure to lead the servo amp assembly cables through the cutout in the front of the cowling. Install the electronics frame cowling with the CSMI label second. Confirm the comfort switch cable is clear of the cowling. Secure the cowling in place using the 10 Phillips head screws. The most challenging screw to install is the lower one on the front of the electronics frame. Lift up the bottom of the cowling to line up the holes. International installations. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the cover from the uninterruptible power supply. Confirm the isolation transformer wiring is matched to the power at the installation. Attach the cover to the isolation transformer. Use a Phillips head screwdriver to remove the outlet cover plate on the side of the isolation transformer. Plug the 110 and 220 cables leading from the servo amp assembly into the isolation transformer. The 220 plug has one turned blade. Install the outlet cover plate onto the isolation transformer. Place the printer on top of the electronics frame against the monitor tray post. Connect the printer power cord and the USB cable exiting the corrugated tube to the printer. Secure the dynamometer cable to the dynamometer yoke using the universal mounting strap. Leave enough slack in the cable so the dynamometer can freely tilt from horizontal to vertical without straining or binding the cable, not shown. Install the dynamometer pedestal clamp cover. The smaller tabs go on top. Use the tin snips to cut the tie wrap holding the wheels to the attachment cart. Carefully turn the attachment cart upside down. Using a 9/16 wrench, install the 4 wheels to the underside of the attachment cart. Carefully set the attachment cart on the wheels. Now unpack the attachments and place them on the attachment cart. The final steps to the installation process are to calibrate the HUMAC norm and run the mock test.